difficult place. We're grappling with a global pandemic. We're dealing as a society with the impact of systemic racism. We've been locked in our houses for multiple months. There's huge unemployment. I need you to give me some hope. You're always looking forward at things that are coming that are going to be great. So give me some hope today. What can I look forward to?
Well, the 5 innovation platforms, which involve 14 technologies, are going to level the playing field entirely. For anyone young and ambitious and excited about catching an exponential growth curve, they are going to have so many opportunities, whether it's DNA sequencing, CRISPR gene editing, leading to new tests and vaccines. Whether it is robotics for social distancing, collaborative robots helping make people more productive and increasing their wages, whether it's electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, which are going to cut the cost of transportation to roughly a quarter or a third of what it is right now for everyone, and 1/10 of what it would cost in an Uber. Whether it's artificial intelligence, which is going to transform every business and every division of every business. And finally, blockchain technology, which is going to increase transparency out there and really open the world up to the emerging markets in a way we've never seen before.
One thing I have that's challenging when we talk about disruptive technologies is that they're always around the corner. Can you give me an example of something that felt like it was around the corner a few years ago, but is here today that'll make me believe that those things are in fact going to arrive?
Oh my goodness, yes, we have so many. You know, all of the seeds of what I just mentioned were planted way back in the tech and telecom bubble. And that's why you're asking the question. Too much capital too soon, ended badly, ended in tears.
Mm-hmm.
Today, these seeds have been gestating for these 15 to 20 years. We are on the cusp of just amazing exponential growth curves. I don't think people understand what that means. Just one. Electric vehicles. When we first started ARC 6 years ago, auto companies, most analysts said, oh, maybe that's 10, 15 years away. We are at the cusp today of electric vehicles dropping on a sticker price basis, dropping below gas-powered vehicles in terms of price. And they will continue to drop further in price as time goes on and as battery costs come down. I think the fear out there from an investment point of view is related to the tech and telecom bubble. Everyone thinks we're in a bubble again, and we are not. This is the real deal.
One last question. How does this compare with previous booms that I've lived through?
This is not similar to anything that either you or I, and I'm much older than you are, have experienced in our lifetimes. You have to go back to the early 1900s to see 3 technology platforms evolve at the same time. Telephone, electricity, and automobile. Believe it or not, they were all considered technology back then. Those were 3. We have 5 now involving 14 technologies. This is the most exciting period we are ever going to experience. Certainly we are. And what's nice about these platforms, these 5 platforms, is they are launching pads for even more innovation. And they are converging. So autonomous taxi networks are the convergence of robotics. Autonomous vehicles are robots. Mm-hmm. Energy storage, they will be electric. I just told you the costs are dropping and will mandate it. And they will be powered by artificial intelligence. We've had a very good year, and it has been turbocharged by the coronavirus. During tough times, innovation takes off. It solves problems. Better, cheaper, faster, more productive, more creative products and services. And that is what has happened this year. Sheryl Sandberg said it really well on Facebook's earnings call last week. She said, you know, for the last 4 years, online has been gaining about 100 basis points of market share in the retail space in the US per year, 100 per year. In the second quarter, it gained 400 basis points. So 4 years in 1 quarter. That is what has happened here. And there's no turning back. Better, cheaper, faster, more creative. There's no turning back. And so we have tried to educate investors generally about the innovation that is taking off here. It's hitting exponential growth territory. We're talking about DNA sequencing, robotics, energy storage. So think electric vehicles. Artificial intelligence is blowing through every industry and should be blowing through every company if they want to remain competitive. And blockchain technology. Those are the 5 fundamental innovation platforms at work right now, and they involve 14 different technologies. The seeds for all of them were planted during the tech and telecom bubble, and investors back then were chasing the dream and took valuations to ridiculous levels. There was too much capital chasing too few opportunities too soon. We needed the last 10 to 15 to 20 years of gestation for these exponential growth trends to take off. And costs are now low enough and the technologies are ready. If you look at a timeline of innovation, you'll see that you have to go back to the early 1900s to see 3 innovation platforms evolving at the same time: telephone, electricity, automobile. We have 5 now. And they're all growing at the same time with 14 different technologies that are going to transform the world completely. So this message has been resonating out there. And investors are attracted to this space generally. But there are some investors who really want nothing to do with it because of the tech and telecom bubble and maybe the 08-09 meltdown. They just want to stick with the basic benchmarks and play it safe. Well, if you look at the S&P 500, we believe that about 40% of it is in the process of being disintermediated, disrupted. The other side of disruptive innovation is creative destruction. That is going to occur, we believe, to roughly somewhere between 35 and 40% of the so-called safe index. And I know that a lot of value investors are seeing great opportunities out there. And the really good value investors, I know, are going to do spectacularly out of this period. But for those who are just focused on price to book value of 35 to 40% of the S&P is going to be written down significantly. Exxon just wrote down, poof, $30 billion last Friday. And we think that there are a number of areas, and we just put out a piece to help investors in these broad-based benchmarks understand what they are up against. The piece was called Bad Ideas. It mirrors our Big Ideas report that we put out every January. And we focused on 5 areas: banking, retail generally, television, linear television, rail, and traditional transportation. These are the 5 areas. These are all touching roughly 40% of the S&P, and they're all about to be disrupted. Banks by digital wallets, Venmo, so PayPal's Venmo, Square Cash's Cash App. Just take a look at what has happened in China with WeChat Pay and Alipay. That process is just beginning in the United States. I just mentioned what Sheryl Sandberg said about retail. The interesting thing about that 400 basis point increase in 1 quarter, it got us in the United States to 16% share of total retail sales going to the online world. The sweet spot of the S curve starts somewhere in that 10 to 15 high teens range of share. Then we go into overdrive. In terms of new technology adoption. Think about it. retail seems to have been destroyed already. We're only 16% into that move. Think about it. Linear TV, we believe that linear TV is about to experience a Wile E. Coyote moment. Off the cliff. Advertising spending on television in the United States has been fairly flat for the last few years, while the number of households watching TV has dropped from 100 million to fewer than 50 million. Think about that. And advertising has been flat. Well, streaming is about to solve that. There is a massive shift to streaming TV now. And we believe that the coronavirus tripped the switch for that television advertising to fall. And we think that analysts who've been fairly comfortable with the cash flows in that world are also going to experience the Wile E. Coyote moment. Rail, we think autonomous trucking is going to be cheaper than rail. That has never been the case. Trucks have always been at a disadvantage. In fact, with human drivers, they're 3 times more expensive than rails in terms of freight transportation. Autonomous trucking is going to change that, electric and autonomous. We believe that autonomous trucking will be cheaper than rail, going from 3 times as more expensive to cheaper. And then finally, traditional transportation. Again, this is not just rail. That analysis is all about freight miles. So it's about freight. Transportation is about people. Autonomous and electric is going to transform transportation globally during the next 5 to 10 years, disrupting energy, autos, insurance, ride hailing, car rentals. It's traditional transportation based on the internal combustion engine really hasn't been in exponential growth mode for 100 years when the autos were rolling off the first assembly lines. Now, with autonomous and electric, transportation is going to see exponential growth. Think electric vehicles for the first time in 100 years. It's going to be quite a shock to the system because our infrastructure has been built around the internal combustion engine, and that is about to end. So many people say that in our bad ideas report, we were taking a swipe at value investors. We were not. The great value investors know that their biggest risks are value traps caused primarily by innovation. We think there are 35 to 40% of the S&P will be considered a value trap over time, will be X growth, will be negative growth. And we think that innovation, staying on the right side of change, is going to be ever more important during the years ahead. We believe if you give us a 5-year time horizon, that ARC is a deep value manager. The difference between linear growth and exponential growth, when your time horizon moves from 1.5 years to 5 years, is night and day. And that's the arbitrage we are playing. We know that the great value investors understand how much book value is at risk out there. They also understand that high dividend yields are really in a bubble, I would say, high dividend yielding stocks, because of the search for yield out there. There's a desperate search for yield. And they also understand that they must consider intangible assets as well as fixed assets if they really want to understand who's going to win at this innovation game. So we embrace our value colleagues, and especially those who are alerting their clients that there is serious risk out there of disruptive innovation. And we'd love to debate some of our value colleagues anytime.